Let's see. All right. And we are live with another episode of Comic Talk. It's that show brought to you by The Keeg, where we talk about this week's new comic books, whether they're DC, whether they're Marvel, whether they're Image or Boom Studios or Massive or whatnot, any sort of comics that we read this week, we are here to talk about. For those of you who don't know, new comic books come out every Wednesday, and like 24 hours or something later, then we read as much as we can in 24 hours, and we just go live on a Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, to talk about everything that we read. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera. And if you're watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. Or maybe you're listening to the podcast wherever you get podcasts from. However you digest us, let us know you're out there. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, write a review, that sort of thing, because we would really appreciate it. Let me introduce my guests. First, we got Ethan, a.k.a. Virgo Blade. Ethan, what's up, man?
What up, what up? How are you?
Doing good. Spread a little thin, you know?
Yeah,
But
that's
otherwise good?
That's good. Still hanging on.
Yeah. Do you feel like you read a lot of comics this week or a little bit of comics?
I never feel like I read enough comics. Like, I know that I do as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that I'll ever feel fulfilled because there are other stories that I want to check out.
Is it also, I mean, it's kind of like just the structure of the show leads us all to be a little disappointed in ourselves that like we can't read everything we want in 24 hours.
Yeah. And then the other thing of just like also like digesting it, because like as a reader, like I'm a very just like I want to like live with it and like think about it. And I don't always feel like I can do that within 24 hours. So then I get worried of like, oh, am I gonna like have enough information to express like how I feel about these comics when I'm like speed running through them. Whereas before I'll like read them twice or like read the previous issue before reading the new issue. So I sometimes have to like contend with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I need to be able to reflect. Luckily, Comic Talk is really, I'm like I like the way this works because Comic Talk helps me remember about what I read.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't, then I forget that I read something. I don't know if you guys like if you've read a comic book and then you're like you forgot you even read it in the first place. You had nothing, like nobody to talk to about it.
Every single book I ever read.
Because you don't have anyone to talk about it? Yeah. So it's kind of like that. It's like movies, right? Like I'm just like, oh, that's right. There was a movie like that. And I did, but like
with movies, I started doing Letterboxd just because it helps me keep and I'll write down my media review. Like, here's what I thought. Even if it's stupid, it's like, here's what I thought.
Yeah. I try to save my ticket stubs. And so I go back and I look and I'm like, oh, I did see that movie. Okay. Weird.
You did see Memento.
In a weird meta way. You're like,
I did watch that in 1999. Oh yeah, I remember
that. Well, who was that voice? If anyone's watching us, you can see who that voice is. That other voice, other than Ethan. We got Christian, aka Comic Book Stash. What's up, Christian?
I'm alive today. I know I was alive yesterday. We're aiming for tomorrow as well, so I would say that's good.
It's good to have goals.
Yeah. It's a big one. It's a big one, but like, gotta go all out with my goals.
Sometimes, sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't die before like Superman comes out.
It's kind of funny, and it's like I don't see it as like a sad thing, but whenever someone's like, hey, like, what do you want to do something like, oh, I saw this concert in March, and I'm like, March? What? I don't know I'm gonna be here. Like, life's so unpredictable.
I mean, yeah, but you can't. You have to plan ahead of time. For
no. Of course, I'll always accept the plan, but then I was like, yeah.
It's like Christmas Eve, and you still haven't gotten your family presents. You're like, look, I don't know what tomorrow.
I still plan, but like there's trucks in the road. You don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Well, hopefully we're all good because we read comics, and as long as my heart beats, comics are going to continue.
And I got a couple Omnis pre-ordered, so I got to stay around.
What Omnis? Which ones?
Superman by Philip Kennedy Johnson.
Okay.
That one pretty much is.
Oh.
There's more. I just cannot think of them.
Is that the War Worlds one?
It's the one where he like has like a shirtless with like a belt.
Yeah, that's
Harness.
the
Yeah.
War Worlds one. I have.
Never read it, so
Lois Lane kept that, by the way.
I have seen that. I've never read it, so I was like, this looks really dope, and I've
Yeah.
heard really cool things.
Yeah.
I have it in a really thick paperback. Like it is like one of the biggest paperbacks that
One of those
could hold it in the
compendiums.
binding, you know. But it's really good, and you know that's a Superman must-have, I think.
I'm
Agreed.
excited for it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the comics that came out this week because you know comics come out every single week, and I thought this was a good week for comics. There was roughly 15 DC and 15 Marvel, and then obviously there are other comic companies.
Yeah.
We'll go over third-party stuff too, but I thought it was a pretty good week.
Probably my most anticipated week in a while. Biggest week in a while. I had like 14 comics.
What's your list? Let's go through your list.
For this week?
Yeah,
I
including
had
issue numbers.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say the name of the artist and hope you figure it out.
I don't. I'm really bad with that, but all right.
So Absolute Wonder Woman #1.
Okay.
Dazzler #2. DC Horror Presents #1. The Flash 14. Hello Darkness #4. Incredible Hulk 18. The Moon is Following Us #2.
Did you read more than you had planned?
No. I read exactly what I sent you.
Did you? Okay, continue.
Paranoid Gardens #4. Fantasy #3. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #3. Frankenstein #3. Void Rivals 13. X Factor 3, and X-Men 6.
You sent me a list, and we're peeking behind the curtain for any people listening in. You didn't put the Flash on your list.
Yeah, I'm behind, so like I bought it. I'm honest. I'm always gonna be honest with this show.
All right.
You guys were talking about how this show makes you feel like you didn't do enough.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like I did too much. Because every time the day before this show comes out and I go to my LCS, I'm like, oh yeah, I have to catch up on like a million things. So like when I say I read Void Rivals #13, I read 10, 11, 12, and 13.
That's crazy. You're playing catch up that much?
Oh yeah, with X-Men to read Dazzler #2, I caught up on like 6 X-Men books.
I was about to say Dazzler #2. You just catch up on Dazzler #1.
No, I need to know the entire X-Men universe because every now and then they'll do a little crossover.
Okay, so you started X-Men #1 back in the 60s, and then you binged everything.
Yeah, I got all the Omnis. Read some interviews too.
Just to get to Dazzler #2.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Watched some fan theories with Taylor Swift, a lot of things.
I'm a big proponent of Taylor's, like, Dazzler in continuity is not Taylor Swift-esque.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Taylor Swift has been popular and continues to be popular. But the whole thing about Dazzler in universe is that her popularity goes up and down, and she stops being a musician. She comes back years later. She does like reunion tours and that sort of thing. You know? She's kind of like Lady Gaga.
Yeah, and right now she's in hot waters, so.
Dazzler is? I didn't read Dazzler #2.
It's,
I wanted to, but all right. We're getting off topic, but yeah. All right. Ethan, what was your list?
Mine was Action Comics 1072, Superman issue number 19, Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 1, X-Men issue number 6.
Yep.
Nightwing issue number 119, and X Factor issue number 3.
Did you do
Iron Man issue number 1?
Okay, there we go. All right, cool. All right, I did Absolute Wonder Woman #1, Iron Man #1, Nightwing 119, Superman 19, Avengers 19. There's a lot of 19s here. All right, and Spider-Boy 12. I didn't. Oh, and Green Arrow. I didn't prep that, but Green Arrow, whatever the issue was, I forget. 16 or something like that. I'll have to look at it. Anyway, how do you guys decide on which book to read first?
Well, this time I did Absolute Wonder Woman because I wanted to get my video out about it first.
Mhm.
But then typically I do Marvel first because I'm a DC guy, so it's like I want to save that for like last. And I think I mentioned this before, but I'll do like single heroes and then I'll do teams, and that's the same thing with Marvel and DC.
Mm.
Mhm.
I think I
Go ahead, Jim.
base it off of anticipation.
Mm.
So sometimes it's like a new number one, sure. But sometimes it's, oh, I remember I really loved the previous issue of this one. I need to know what happens.
Mm.
You know?
I saved
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
for
No,
like last.
for me, I do this like and it's annoying. But what I do is I'll put like something I'm really excited for and something I'm not that excited for, and then
Oh.
something I'm really excited for again. So if I
Mm.
want to get to that second book I'm really excited for, I have to get through the rest. I'm
You're
forcing myself to read everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're
And it's like,
sandwiching everything.
yeah.
Like
Mhm.
um
Indies excite me the most right now, I'm not gonna lie to you.
yeah, you're an indie guy, you know? Yeah. They call you Indiana Jones.
Yeah, you look at me and you're like, ah, Shrek sweater.
Oh, there we go. I read my most anticipated, and then I get to like the homework, essentially the
Yeah.
obligation. As time goes on, and try to fill in the gaps. But there are also things that sometimes I'm just like for instance, I didn't read X-Men #6 today because X-Men I want to really pay attention to. So
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm running out of time, I don't get to that. So it's kind of a sandwich in a way. So it is
Mm.
what it is.
I will say
Um,
I tend to leave Marvel for the end. I don't know why.
mm,
But most of my Marvel reads right now are X-Men. I think all of them, honestly.
mm.
Most of mine are too.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, I like to read like the other stuff too, but it just depends. Just depends. Well, I mean, let's get to it. Like, what? You guys have the same. You guys have the same pick of the week, so one of you guys are gonna have to budge.
I'll change it. You
Okay,
go
I
for
mean
it.
it's up to you.
Yeah, no, I'll change it. Don't worry.
You don't have to change it in your heart. You just have to
Oh no, no.
change it for the show.
Forget that book. I hate it now.
All right, all right. Christian, what's your pick of the week?
My pick of the week is Paranoid Gardens #4.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good story, and I haven't heard anyone really talk about it. It's written by Gerard Way, lead
Mhm.
singer of My Chemical Romance. He's written some books that I really like. Doom Patrol by him is really good.
Yeah.
Umbrella Academy,
Mhm.
and I picked it up just because I saw his name. Honestly, picked up #1, and it's this really confusing, weird story. It's like there's this like house. They take like people with like powers who are sick. It's sort of like retirement, you know?
Hmm.
Uh, but the house is surrounded by like this garden that's alive that only lets people in if that garden allows it. And our main character is this nurse that works there that doesn't remember anything about her life. And in issue #1, a superhero comes in and he's like laser like vision everywhere, like destroying the house. Like they're trying to like sedate him because he's like sick.
Hmm.
And he looks at her and he's like, I know you. And then they take him away. And then you find out like the people who work there know who she is. They just don't want her to find out.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Issue #4 was really good. We're starting to get to a point where we're like finding out who she is and why she's there. But I think all of like the characters are really strong. But I like how absurd it is. Every single issue, something weird happens that just makes me question like what the writers, like not the writers room, but like the meeting was when they pitched it.
Mm.
Okay, what if we put a cult of men with monkey masks? And
I
I
mean,
don't know, it's a good book.
yeah. The Cult with the Men with Monkey Masks reminds me of Absolute Batman #1, which came out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But
Party
okay.
animals.
Yeah, the party animals. But they said in each city they wear a different animal mask,
Hmm.
and they're
I
like
don't know.
in different cities. But that's Absolute Batman. But okay, all right. So Paranoid Gardens, by Dark Horse Comics.
Sounds cool.
Okay, all right.
I like weird comics like Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol is
It,
like
it's
one of my favorites.
it has that vibe That's how I would describe it. It's like Doom Patrol, Umbrella Academy-esque.
Hmm. Okay,
Okay.
have to check that out.
Ethan, I mean, let's get down to it. I mean, you got one that I want to talk about too, but it's not my pick of the week.
We're all here.
Though it is great. I mean,
Yeah.
What do you got?
Absolute Wonder Woman lives up to the hype. I was very excited and pleased and impressed with Absolute Batman, but it can also be that thing like, oh, is it just because it's Scott Snyder? No, the magic is also with Wonder Woman as well. I love the concept. And okay, before I even get into that, let me say that like I'm not the biggest fan of like Elseworlds, multiverse, like Ultimates, like nothing against them, but I'm just like a main continuity guy. Like I kind of like prefer that. Just because usually like the other universes often comes off as like, oh, what if he wears a hat in this universe? And like
I've been talking about this. This is exactly what I brought up when Absolute Batman came out. Sorry to interrupt. Just that like DC Elseworlds, sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not. And when they're not, it's normally like, what if the Justice League were all knights in shining armor? But it's not Dark Knights of Steel. It'll just be like, well, actually, okay, I'm gonna pick a different thing. What if all the Justice League were cowboys? That's an actual thing, Justice Riders. And it's like, okay, Bruce Wayne was a rich cowboy.
That sounds kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie.
But it's the same. It's like it's just a palette change,
No, yeah.
right? Like it's a palette.
What if they were evil? What if they were all dead? It's always
and it's never like innovative. It's just like, what if all of them were old timey? I'm having trouble thinking about anything.
What if they were all dinosaurs?
What if they're all but that was actually not too bad. Anyway, the point being is Elseworlds, when it's bad, it's really bad. And somebody online brought up when Marvel did Ultimate Marvel originally, they did it two different ways. One was when they did Ultimate Spider-Man, they were like, what are the core concepts of the character? Let's keep these and let's just refresh it for a new generation, which made it more lovable. And then Mark Miller, when he did the Ultimates, he was like, what if we took them, they were visually the same, but they were just different characters?
Yeah.
And which is totally opposite.
That's how I feel about the new Ultimate Universe. It's like I like it, but it's not the same as like I'm reading Ultimate Spider-Man right now, the 4th Omni. It's just so much better.
Oh, it's different though. Like the new Ultimate Marvel universe, I think the goal is to tell new, innovative, new stories.
Yeah, no, 100%. But like it's like reinventing the characters. I feel like the old Ultimate Spider-Man did it better.
It's hard to live up to that, but
yeah.
Anyway, I think Absolute Batman at his core is still Batman, and this Wonder Woman I think is also Wonder Woman. Sorry, Ethan, keep going.
Okay. So really like the foundation of this Absolute universe was done very well with like the All-In special. And even going into that, I was just like, okay, this is like gonna like introduce us to this Absolute universe. So I don't know how good it's gonna be, but they cooked and they did an amazing job with Darkseid and Spectre and that whole storyline. And so I feel like from that foundation and like the concept of like Darkseid being like the overmaster of this universe and like how there are these dark versions of the characters, but they're also like still fighting for justice. And it doesn't just feel like dark for dark's sake. And so like Wonder Woman being raised in hell could be very kind of like not hokey, but like obvious. But instead it's a very fascinating dynamic with like Cersei having to raise her and just like how is she still able to hold on to her heart and her sense of justice while being like raised in this hell. This literal hell. And that really creates like an interesting kind of like launch pad for this story. And I just love the aesthetic of it. Like it's dark, but it has a really strong story. And also feel like there's so many places for this to go. And like I just feel like overall from the art to the story to the concept, just everything from top to bottom was well thought out, very interesting. I was engaged the whole time. And also, this is like a random aside, but this is who I am. I feel like this is what I wanted from death metal because like Wonder Woman was like brought like goddess of the underworld dark universe. And also they said that that was going to be Wonder Woman's story, and it wasn't. It still had more Batman than it had Wonder Woman. So I kind of felt like something was stolen from me because I wanted to see this hardcore Wonder Woman that was supposedly like, this dark multiverse underground queen. But we didn't get that. But we're getting that with absolute Wonder Woman.
I did not like death metal at all.
Yeah, me neither.
I was like, ugh, they should have like just not done death metal and just released toys. Just like release the toy. Like, okay, that's really what it seemed like it was. It's just like, you want to put spikes on Superman? Fine, put spikes on Superman and just release it as a toy. Like, you don't need to make a version like that. But yeah, I'm not a fan of death metal. I liked this one a lot. I mean, the basic consensus of the Absolute Universe is that like, it's not that good doesn't exist, and it's not that these characters aren't good. They are just as good, but they've had a harder time, and they are underdogs. For the first time in the multiverse, essentially, right? Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are fighting a battle that we don't know if they're going to win. And it's not that evil always wins. It's not Earth 3, right? It's not an opposite universe. It is an underdog universe.
I liked it a lot, dude. Honestly, and hot take, liked it more than Batman. And I'll say this:
I liked them both. I can't.
Here's my thing: Batman was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was everything I expected.
Yeah.
But I feel like when it comes to the changes, some of the changes in Batman felt like just like shock value.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look at this! Like, his mom's alive. With
Oh,
Wonder Woman,
I love his mom.
oh, it was great.
Yeah.
But like with Wonder Woman, all of the changes are like so interesting. From her being raised in hell, Cersei,
by
like,
Cersei,
yeah, everything feels like, oh, this is like a totally different character. With Batman, the changes are still like, oh, they still, his dad still died. He's still seeking revenge and justice.
Yeah.
With Wonder Woman, it's like, no matter what changed in her story, like, look at the difference. It's hell. She should be the worst, but look at her. She still has her heart. And I like that more than just like the shock value of like, oh, mom's alive.
Yeah. I'm wondering, because in this comic, the Amazons are essentially destroyed, but they're like put in a pocket universe or something. I don't know what it is, by Zeus. Like, the Amazons are stuck somewhere, right? Zeus has them stuck somewhere. So, but the baby, Apollo takes the baby of Diana and brings her to Cersei, who is in exile in hell. Cersei being, a witch of dark magic, right? Cersei still loves Diana, which is very interesting to me. Cersei loves Diana, and that's why Diana is good. Is Diana good if she had a bad mother?
Well, I feel like it's a conversation of like nature versus nurture. And in this case, I almost feel like Diana as a baby had the nature of goodness, because like I feel like her relationship with like even the monsters down there of just like, oh, you should have killed that thing.
She's the one who changes Cersei, if anything.
Precisely. It's like, and so I feel like, because Cersei was just like, she's not a mother, like she's not motherly, she doesn't have that within her. But I feel like seeing the goodness in Diana, even in a place like hell, kind of like made her heart grow like the Grinch.
Yeah, Cersei says, "I'm just gonna let her die."
I think there's some nuance to that. I think there's some nuance. One is, you could just say that like she was just gonna let a baby die. I see it as Cersei saying, "What is the use of loving in hell if I have to watch a loved one die?" Essentially, right? And I don't think that she respects Diana more, knowing that Diana is strong. I think she's like, I can actually invest my love and see, perhaps in the wildest of dreams, this child can grow up in hell instead of just a normal baby dying. I think there's a nuance there, right?
But it gives her hope.
Yeah.
So like, it's
which is also interesting. Diana as a baby gives this dark witch hope.
Yeah. I just got excited for every Absolute, honestly.
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
I hope they handle them like the 2001 Ultimate Spider-Man. Like they could just go forever and I'd be happy.
My only concern is that the whole universe is going to be too dark and one note. Like in every iteration of absolute whatever, is it always just going to be like there's cannibals, there's
I,
murderers,
well, I
the
think
world is full of demons.
with the
Ah,
idea that we're getting all of these heroes, maybe once they get together, there starts being a change
yeah.
in how the universe works because they're supposed to bring hope in to the universe.
Yeah, I mean, because like this is Darkseid's universe, so it's like the antithesis of Superman's. So it's like even though yes, it can seem like overdone, but I feel like that's kind of the point. Like most of DC, for all intents and purposes, is like a brighter, lighter tone. So it's that's kind of like the buy-in for the absolute universe, which like I don't mind it as long as a good story is being told. And like kind of going back to like death metal, it's like that's why I enjoyed Dark Knight's metal over death metal was because it felt like there was a real point to Dark Knight's metal because that was all had been set up in Batman. And even though like Justice League set up death metal, like there was something just very like forced about it. And so I feel like as long as the absolute universe still has like story at the core of it, then I'm fine with the darkness and hopefully the light can eventually overcome the darkness.
I I'm starting to like just read into this whole absolute thing. Just the fact that like Darkseid is always just like, death and despair is a universal constant, right? Like that is his thing. But the problem is that the multiverse hinges on Superman. Like Superman is the multiversal constant, right? But in this, he's able to create a constant, which is he is the universal constant, right? For
Mm-hmm.
this universe, Darkseid is. Um, but I think it's very interesting the way I'm seeing, at least judging from these two series, is that hope will prevail no matter what. Hope is the
Yeah.
universal constant, not despair. You can structure a whole universe around despair like Darkseid does. Hope will get through the cracks.
Yeah, and I feel like that's going to be the general message when all is said and done.
That's beautiful. Like I don't
Yeah.
like I'm getting excited just talking about it. So, something I liked about Wonder Woman, Absolute Wonder Woman #1 is first the snake goes for her and it says yeet as like she throws the snake, right? And then the fire breathing lizard comes up to Diana and she grabs it and you think like she's just gonna squeeze it or something, and she like kisses it, like kisses this little fire lizard.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he hurts her at that point. Like he doesn't fight back or anything. Like, and like you constantly see her taming beasts,
Yeah.
right? Which I think is a very forgotten part of Wonder Woman lore, is that she's really good with animals, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like she has this like connection with nature.
I think it's
That
Artemis. I think it's part of the Artemis thing, right?
yeah. And I think in the absolute comic book, she's called the Witch of the Wild Isle, which also brings about like nature as well. But yes, I feel like it's a aspect of her character that isn't embellished enough because it's very fascinating her connection with these beasts.
Yeah, that's what I a big thing I was missing from the Wonder Woman movies is more mythological creatures. I wanted mythological creatures.
Yeah, same.
You know. Anyway, Absolute Wonder Woman #1. I mean, if you guys didn't all both pick this as your #1, I would have picked it. Like, but I got to pick something else. So, I I liked this. I like this one. With no, I'm gonna pick Superman 19.
Hmm.
I thought it was interesting enough. Is it hokey? Is it a little cheesy? A little bit, but like it was a good start to this new kind of Superman all-in initiative sort of relaunch sort of thing. On the cover, you have Superman and you have Superwoman, and every so often DC Comics will bring in Superwoman, like just a character named Superwoman. They'll be like, "Who is she? How did she get her powers?" And they constantly do that, and they're doing it again with this, right? But I liked it. I don't know. I liked the art, and it was a weird twist at the end but like, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I am. I feel like with like each issue, I'm warming up to it. Not that I like disliked it, but I think maybe my expectations were a bit too high, and I'm kind of getting a world's finest in a way, like in the beginning, which isn't like a negative thing, but I felt like world's finest was very specific, like as you were saying, like hokey,
Yeah,
but in like a very beautiful, like golden age way. And
yeah,
like with Superman, I kind of wanted to be more modern. I'm not saying like, oh, completely like separate from, the like old school canon, but for it to feel a bit more contemporary. But I do feel like with each issue, it is getting stronger. I really love the concept of Lois Lane as Superwoman because I really love the character, and I think it adds so much to her story of just like how she's going to balance both being like, Daily Planet Lois Lane as well as Superwoman. But also I like the idea that like she was trained by General Lane, because that was always something that I just, was in my head canon, whether they always put it in the comics or not. Like to me, it would make sense for Lois to be a fighter, A, because of her personality, but because of her upbringing, like her father would treat her in that way. So it's almost like she's very much prepared for it in a way, not better than Superman, but like in terms of her like temperament and like understanding of war, kind of. Like if you really like think about it, like because like I'm sure that she's had conversations with her father about war and about combat and like, oh, when to do this. So there's a lot of opportunity to explore that. And so I think that's what I'm saying when I say that I want it to be a bit more like contemporary, where we can dig deeper into the psyche of what this would actually feel like.
yeah. I yeah. I hope her powers are temporary. Like they have to be, right? Like
Oh
so,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
It's
uh,
to me like Flash's wife.
yeah.
Like she just like went through that like speedster pregnancy, but like we all knew that it was gonna go away. But I will say how that's being handled like after the fact, that's what I want with Lois Lane. Like what's the psychological effects of like, oh, she had the speedster powers and then she doesn't, but like she was so productive and she felt like one of the family and now she doesn't have it. And like I want that same thing with Lois. So it's all a matter of how they deal with it. It's not going to last forever. But I wouldn't mind it lasting for a pretty good while.
Yeah.
So
I
it's not
hope
just like, oh, a flash in the pan.
I didn't read this, but I just hope they don't do it like in Smallville. I don't know if you guys remember
Yeah,
Lana
when
got her
Lana
powers
gets it, yeah.
because they get struck by lightning or something stupid.
Um
And
I forget what happens in Smallville, but
it's like an episode. It's
yeah.
just an episode.
No, no,
It's like
no.
a
It's more. It was a whole story arc in like half a season.
it okay, I'll say this. It felt like an episode. It was
Yeah.
so unimportant to me that I
Yeah.
was like, it's just dumb.
Yeah. Um it doesn't say how she got her powers. It's one of the mysteries. But it does hint at, because at the end of Absolute Power, some powers get switch swapped, right? Like they get like they never okay. For example, at the end of Absolute Power, fire and ice get each other's powers. But in the pages of all these Justice League books and whatnot, um they have their powers again. So I don't know, but supposedly some people got other people's powers that shouldn't have. So I'm
Mhm.
wondering whether she got her powers from like Jonathan Kent.
Mhm. That could be a possibility. I feel like it would make sense to have it be related to absolute power, since that was such a big thing at the end, like that like cliffhanger thing, and we don't fully know like the extent of what that means.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um okay. All right. I liked that one.
Wait, real quick, the
Yeah.
art, of course, Dan Moore, amazing. Doomsday, like yes, like Doomsday might be getting overused lately, but here's the thing: when I turned that page and I saw how Doomsday was drawn,
Yeah.
I was taken aback. I was pushed back. Like it was gorgeous. So I have to commend like Dan Moore just never misses. And the book looks amazing.
I'm afraid people are going to start simping over this Doomsday.
Um in his like new form.
Yeah. His little kind of, dare I say, no, I'm not going to say it. But yeah,
Okay.
in his
Maybe
skinnier form.
maybe a certain type of people. Doesn't do it for me, but to each their own.
Look, if people are simping on Venom, people are gonna simp on Skinny Doomsday.
That's true. Yeah, Thin Doomsday might do it for some people.
Yeah. I'm just, it is what it is. Though I am very excited for the couples costumes that can come out of this, because instead of doing Clark and Supergirl, they're cousins. Like an actual couples costume could be Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
And
I do actually like the design of the suit. It's designed very well.
I don't remember what it looks like exactly. Oh,
it's pretty straightforward. It's not overdone, but I feel like it feels like a super suit. And I feel like that's kind of the issue with, like, I think Wally West has like this new kind of like black in his thing going on, and I'm not feeling that. Whereas like this feels like, oh, this is like a super family suit.
Yeah. Wally's new suit is interesting. Huh. I didn't get to read The Flash, but he does appear in Titans, the most recent issue of Titans, with the black and red suit. So, yeah, it is what it is. What else? What else we got? What else? What else are you guys dying to talk about?
DC Horror Presents.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Do you like scary books?
So I've been reading a lot of anthologies lately. I picked up all the EC comics, both Epitaph from the Abyss and Cruel Universe.
Okay.
Which is like they're basically bringing back EC comics, which is really good. And they're all horror books, even the sci-fi ones. So I was really excited to pick up like a DC anthology, a bad horror DC anthology, and I did not like it. But
it's not good. Or it wasn't for you.
I mean, standalone, the stories are okay, but as a whole, it felt like I was like, oh, that's it. Like I literally flipped to the last page and I was like,
it's two stories, right?
Yeah, it's two stories,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's not an anthology. That's just half a comic book.
That's a comic plus the backup, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay.
And these are characters I don't really care about.
Who are the two?
I can't even tell you. Let me check. Characters.
The covers look cool though.
Dollmaker and Dollhouse. They're the only characters I see right here.
Okay.
Wonder Woman shows up for like a second.
Oh.
Cersei. But it's nothing that like really grabbed me. And I like I said, I've been reading a lot of DC. I like anthologies. It just felt like it was missing some. Like with Cruel Universe, you get like 4 stories per book.
Yeah.
And it was a letdown.
They could be doing a couple of different things for this. They could just be releasing them as single issues in order to make the hardcover, and you won't notice. It'll be, if it's 2 for every one of these issues. I think this is a 4-issue series. So you'll get 8 stories in a paperback, and it's good to go, right? I'm sure that's kind of what they're thinking. Or they're just testing out ideas and people and whatnot, and seeing how they work with a half a book.
Yeah. Once again, and I have to put this out, the stories were good. Like the writing was good, the art was great. I just felt like the book as a whole was missing something.
It is weird that it's 2. I would have just been like, oh, why isn't it 3?
Because after the second one, you get like some ad or something. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll flip the page and there's more. No, that's it. And it was a letdown. And it sucks because a book with like 2 good stories felt empty.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. I'll just let's hop over to some Marvel. Iron Man #1. You guys read this one?
I didn't read it.
I read it.
Ethan, did you like it or not like it?
Okay. So I was in the comic book shop and I was holding on to this Iron Man comic book, and I'm like, okay, I'm not an Iron Man fan. It's not like I'm a hater. I just don't have very strong feelings about him. So I was like holding it, like telling myself to try it because it's an issue #1. This could be like my way of getting into it. It was very much like, eating peas. So I read it, like it's not bad, but it's kind of like what I expected. It just wasn't deep enough for me. I like the like concept of Stark Unlimited and like the commentary of like the workers and them like fighting for their rights and unionizing, and Roxxon and like the kind of like the warfare in the boardroom type of aspect. But my main issue comes with Tony Stark. And I think maybe I'm spoiled by Batman, but I feel like his lack of duality prevents me from really like entering this comic book the way that I need it to. It feels like he flies into the boardroom as Iron Man slash Tony Stark, and neither of them are deep enough people in order for this to like really like carry through. I'm not getting how this is like affecting him on a personal level. And so I'm not saying that he has to have like psychosis, but like I just need something like deeper to dig into and like, oh, what's his passion? What's he fighting for? And like I see him having these kind of conversations internally, kind of about like the response from the people that he's getting. And that part is interesting. I do think that that was done well, but overall it just feels too flat for me. And this was my first Iron Man comic book ever. And yeah, it just was exactly what I thought it was going to be, which isn't very deep.
So I'm gonna recommend the previous run, especially if you like X-Men, because it ties in with Fall of X, and that's the one where he gets married to Emma Frost, and I loved it. I love that most. Okay, and I think it hinges on all these books. If you're a solo title, if you're the one character sort of book, you need a really good supporting cast. Superman, Clark Kent needs his family, needs the Daily Planet, right? If it's Spider-Man, Spider-Man needs his supporting cast, his friends, whether they're heroes, whether they're not. But this one had like him versus a bunch of just different villains. And it was like, oh, okay. I liked this, but also I was just like, how many times do I need to see Tony Stark build Iron Man armor from scratch? How many times do I need to see him get his company taken from him? It always happens. Like, I like at least if he had a good supporting cast, I think it would have made this issue more dynamic.
I
Yeah.
I I haven't read it, so I'm like speaking out of nothing right here.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the same problem with picking up Ultimate Black Panther #1, where I picked it up and I was like, oh, he's not King of Wakanda. He's like not there. Cool. Every single Black Panther story I seem to pick up is like him not there.
Mm.
And it was like, give
Yeah.
me there's powers like, and I didn't continue reading it, Ultimate Black Panther, but like I like the fact that like no, he's there and he has to like take care of a whole country and also be the Black Panther. The duality of Bruce Wayne is that like yes, he's saving the city, but he still has to go and be this other person and take care of his company. And that duality, I feel like the reason why I never pick up Iron Man is because I don't feel like there's anything behind it.
Yeah, and that's it confirmed that that very idea, because that's why I hadn't in the past and then I did it this time, and that is the response that I had. But also I feel like what the Batman All In issue did what this one like should have done, because you have Batman in this new Gotham that's trying to like turn over a new leaf. He's back at his company, but then there's Nigma Tech, and he doesn't trust the Riddler, and he's trying to acquire it. But there's that whole of like he knows Edward Nigma and he doesn't trust him no matter what they're saying. So there's a more like deeper like relationship psychological aspect to it that I'm missing from Tony Stark in either his personal or his superhero life. And Batman just does it so effortlessly of making you understand this world and understand his different sides, that Iron Man just feels like he's always on the surface.
Yeah. For me, there's this thing with like Iron Man that like every time someone tells me something about an Iron Man comic book, it always feels like the point is like the suit's really cool. Oh, he got a new suit. Oh, this one has this power. And
Yeah.
it's never like, tell me about Tony. I've never heard anything like, yeah, he was an alcoholic and that was like a really hard storyline. But that's the only one I know that I'm like,
Yeah.
oh wow.
That's why I like his Emma Frost marriage. It worked. it weirdly, I was not cheering them on at first, and then I started, and then I was sad to see them, like, they broke up. And so,
I,
what were you gonna
I
say?
feel like she could make him interesting.
They're both assholes. That's why it became the
Mhm.
asshole show, and I liked it. You know?
Yeah, I just like that Emma serves, and I just feel like she can get away with anything.
Uh,
And I would definitely check that out based on the strength of her,
yeah.
because like she can do no wrong, even though she only does wrong. That's how I feel about her.
Hey,
I
we support women's rights, but we also support women's wrongs.
Right there.
I never grew up as an Emma Frost fan because of the art of Frank Quitely on New X-Men made
Mm.
me to me there wasn't much difference between Cassandra Nova and Emma Frost in that artwork. Like Frank Quitely loves to draw wrinkles on everybody. And it's like, okay, what? So I was never really a fan, and she just wasn't likable in New X-Men. But I think in the whole Krakoa era, I started to love Emma, and I was like, you are a boss bitch, and that in like the best way possible, right? And if there's anything you must know about me, I love boss bitches. that's just me. That is my kryptonite. Um, Good on them, you know. And so
Mhm.
Emma Frost doing that, like I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So her and Tony work together. They work well together. Weirdly enough, they do. So worth
Yeah.
checking out, you know.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah. Um. Avengers number 19. I think I was the only person out of us three to read it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Basically, the premise of this is just it's a couple of things. Storm has just joined the Avengers.
Okay.
T'Challa doesn't want to deal with it, so he's just like, I'm just gonna go on this mission over here. And they're like, that's dangerous, but I think you're okay. Is it really just because you don't want to talk to Storm? And he's like, yeah, all right, peace out. Basically, he says he's like, he had a kind of a badass line that I thought was kind of cute, but he was just like, he doesn't fear death, he fears losing, and the fact that he lost Storm hurts.
I mean, that's something he'll never be able to recover from. Like vibranium can't fix that problem.
No, and I get it. If I fumbled with Storm, well, first thing I don't fly that high. Like Storm is, I'm gonna like be Icarus, right? Like I'm gonna just melt and fall to my doom if I fly too high. Storm is a goddess. If you come for her, like you can't mess up, and he did.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
is what it is. Point being is that this Avengers thing. So it kind of does that, and then it just kind of leaves. But Storm mentions that like Sam and T'Challa are really good friends now after Blood Hunt, and I thought that was a kind of a nice thing where crossover events like kind of change things. So they say that their dynamic is like they're buddies now, essentially after the events
Sam,
of Blood
as
Hunt.
in,
Sam Wilson.
okay, just making sure.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love, this is like a side note, but like I love black characters being friends. It seems like a small thing, but whenever you have like the token black person, it's just like it's not a realistic thing of just like we like community and we can be, but when you keep them isolated and they don't interact, it's very frustrating. So
Yeah.
I like that they have that.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Latino characters. It's like, oh, that's the Latino character. And I'm like, what? It's a big community.
Yeah.
And they tend to like group together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, and this happens in real life, is if a company wants to hire just one, then everybody's fighting over that one spot. And then when you're there, you're alone and you're an island, right? So
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, these superhero teams, like, let's just get Jon Stewart on the team. And Jon Stewart doesn't get to hang out with anyone. Like, you know? And so it's like, okay. But now I think what's happening with this is like, no, like this is Marvel's Avengers. Let's get Storm, let's get Sam, let's get T'Challa all on the team. Blade comes in and out, right? Like the only person, like the only big heavy hitter they're missing is Monica. You know, Monica Rambeau should be on this squad, right?
Oh,
And
that'd be
like,
dope.
yeah. But like the fact is like they can interact now because they're on the same team together. So it's like a causation and correlation thing, you know? In universe, that's the reason. Outside universe, like Marvel editorial should have had this going for a while now, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely like editorial mandate, because like that even brings me back to when Dwayne McDuffie wrote Justice League. And like the first thing he did was put Firestorm, Black Lightning, Vixen, Green Lantern, John Stewart all on the same team. And I remember the uproar that a certain fan base calls calling it the Black Justice League because there were 4 Black characters on the team and they weren't used to seeing that.
Yeah.
But I don't care about
Yeah.
that. And
Homie,
I want
step
to see it.
outside.
Right. Yeah. There's more than one that exists.
It's
But
like, was that White Justice? Was it the White Justice League?
to them, it was the white power Justice League.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go outside and like do this. Not a white person, most likely.
Exactly.
I love it. And you don't need to make an anthology book on it, though both companies do, on those specific months.
The
But
voices.
I love it when like Miles Morales can hang out and like be himself with other characters.
And he can hang out with both groups.
Yeah, right. And and he's all over, but he also has his young friends that he hangs out with, right? The champions and everything. And like,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
And Miles is winning.
What's that?
Miles is just winning.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of superheroes just hanging out, which is why I love the X-Men and it's why I love the Justice League, because the Justice League have Thanksgiving dinner together. Like,
yeah,
that's Avengers are just like Tony's just like, sorry, like I'm having Thanksgiving over there. Like,
there's work,
Yeah,
he's taking his money and he's going to his Stark Tower.
Yeah,
and he has security to keep everybody out.
Right.
That's what I like. As like dark as this is gonna sound, like in Plastic Man No More, as much as the Justice League doesn't listen to him, if you pay attention to those scenes, the Justice League are just having lunch.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey guys," and they're like, "Oh, you're so funny," but like you see them like just like eating lunch together.
Right.
And it's like, oh, they are just friends,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would also say that they're not best friends with Plastic Man, though.
Yeah, no.
So it
Not with
becomes
him.
cliquey. Yeah.
Ask them, the Justice League, excluding Plastic Man, friends.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also like the Justice League Unlimited aspect that they're doing in the comics right now. Which, I mean, I might as well just touch on it with Green Arrow 17. They've been doing it in a couple of different books, like Titans, they touched on it. The DC All-In special, they touched on it. That, like, everybody is given access to the Justice League Watchtower now, but they have different wings, essentially. Like, Titans will get their own wing of the Justice League Watchtower. But, like, a lot of heroes are coming and going, whether they're small heroes or big heroes. And, like, it's kind of cool to see, like, yeah, how are they pairing up? Like, Fire and Ice are always together, but, like, if you think about the continuity, like, they have the friends that they were on the Justice League with in their iteration of the Justice League, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody kind of has their own, like Booster and Ted and Jaime are all, gonna hang out, sure. And they're all on the Justice League, and they all kind of respect each other. But I like the different little cliques that the Justice League has right now.
Yeah, and like this brings me back to like another point. It's like I love the unity of DC and the organization of it, and that is something that I feel like from the outside looking in terms of like Marvel, I feel like they lack. Just in terms of like structure, like you have like DC, you have the Trinity, you have Justice League, then you have like Teen Titans, you have Justice Society of America. Feels like every kind of like category is filled in, and Justice League Unlimited feels like a great opportunity to like make that super structure. And that as like a DC fan that like loves all these different areas for their own different reasons is like very exciting for me.
I wonder if HR has to get involved with the Justice League Watchtower, because now I'm thinking about it, like there's a lot of people and a lot of just really hot, attractive people. It's like the Olympic Village. Like,
yeah,
are
they
you
actually
telling
put
me
cardboard beds in the Watchtower?
Oh, to stop them from having sex? Otherwise, they break their beds.
Yeah, just like the Olympics.
Yeah, they're, come on, they gotta be hooking up. Anyway, Green Arrow number 17 is dealing with the ramifications of absolute power, where Green Arrow essentially like formulated a plan in which he betrays the Justice League. And so this is dealing with kind of the tail end of that. And so, but he's back to Star City, which is cool. Has a little bit of time on the Watchtower. He's back to Star City stuff. And then, yeah, I don't know. If you like Green Arrow, this is also a good hopping on point.
Cool. Yeah, I'm like a few issues behind, but I've been really enjoying it. Like his like multiverse, like world spanning adventure, like that's been cool. And I feel like his absolute power storyline was handled well as well. And the fact that it's bringing back the Justice League, I'm not going to stay mad at him.
I didn't like how he was handled in Absolute Power, but I think it was fine the way it worked itself out.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm willing to let bygones be bygones. Let's just move on, you know?
Yeah. I guess also like I'm not crazy attached to Oliver, so it's like, okay.
I'm not crazy attached to him, other than I'm just a real big fan of super families. So, like, each mentor is a little bit different. Superman and his family, like, Superman's a father. Like, he is a father figure to that family. But, like, Ollie is, like, just a fuck-up uncle.
Yeah. Like, I'm still upset about Connor Hawk, like, how he treated him. And I feel like that's why, like, I'm never going to get, like, that. Like, I appreciate Ollie as a character, but as like a human being, he's the Get Out guy who's like, I voted for Obama. I'm like, however many times while being like a terrible person. Like that's what Ollie feels like to me. So it's like, I appreciate what you say you stand for, but your actual actions, you're kind of garbage sometimes.
It's funny you bring that up because Amanda Waller brings it up in this issue where she says, "Hey Ollie, you're always anti-establishment, but one day you're gonna be the establishment."
I mean, hasn't he also like worked for like Checkmate and like he's like always involving himself in these very like corporate or just like capitalistic patriarchal like systems,
like an organization?
So like, right, like where do you stand like if you're anti-establishment? But he always finds himself like, oh, with Amanda Waller, with Checkmate. It's like what's T Oliver?
With the Justice League, right? Like
yeah true.
He should be operating on his own. I mean, I would love Ollie to lead the Outsiders, like create an Outsiders team and just run that as the essentially the different version of the Justice League. Like maybe they're building up towards that. We could hope. You know?
That could be cool.
Yeah. Let's get through, for the sake of time, let's get through everything else that we read.
Getting the pull list ready.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #3. I've read the first two. I didn't get to read this one.
Loving what they're doing. Loving how they're connecting everything. I like how every character's personality shines in each issue because it really shows like they're dealing with something we don't know about in their own way, and I appreciate that. Always good fights, cool art. I'm enjoying it a lot. As someone who's never read TMNT other than like Last Ronin, I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite turtle, real quick? I'm just curious.
I don't know actually. Yeah, never had one as a kid. Never big into TMNT, so I feel like this being my first run, I'll figure it out as I go.
Okay, that's cool.
I mean,
mine's Leonardo. But I mean, like as a kid, I just liked every character who was blue. But I do think, and also he has like a bow staff, and Tim Drake had a bow staff, so there was some like mixing with that.
Wait, as well. Donatello? No, Leonardo has.
No, wait. Sorry. He has swords. He has katanas.
Yeah, he has katanas.
Yeah, that's right. As you can see, I'm not the biggest team.
The new run's good. You should.
Okay, I'll check that out though.
Yeah. Basically, the new run starts off with the band broken up. Like the band has broken up, and they're hopefully going to get the band back together, right? Which is exactly how Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island starts off. You know,
you can't go wrong there.
Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is the best Scooby-Doo anything.
And I do like the live actions, though.
Yeah. But like Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, where the monsters are real,
Yeah.
That
No,
I
no, that makes sense.
remember seeing the commercial as like a kid or something like that, and they're trying to pull off his mouth, like it's
And
not coming off. I'm just like, oh.
and his head pops off.
Yes,
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. Um, so I forget what when people ask me who my favorite X-Men is, I cannot pick because it's a very team dynamic sort of book. Same with the Ninja Turtles. I need all four.
Mm.
Yeah, I always say Cyclops just to say it. He's cool.
He's cool, but like, I mean, I say Storm, you know, but like, I think Storm needs a good supporting cast too. That's the thing about team books; they can all be each other's supporting cast.
Yeah,
You know.
I like Gambit.
Okay.
He has a bow staff, right?
Yeah, he does. He does. All right, so let's go through the rest of it. X Factor number 3. I read X Factor 1 and 2. I didn't get to read this one. Good, not good. What's going on?
So oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. You go.
Okay. I kind of want to make this my second pick. I want to give some love to X Factor. I'm actually enjoying this over X-Men. Because I feel like X-Men isn't bad. It's good, but I feel like it can be great. And it's not reaching the level that I need it to be. Whereas I think the X Factor is surprising me of just like being almost like a commentary on pop culture and social media. And also it has like a Justice League International vibe as well, of just like very just like corporate and being meta, of like a commentary about the comic book industry as well.
Yeah.
It's also humorous, but also telling a really good story.
I like how they like talked about AI.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, it's run by AI, so you know it's gonna fail. And I was like, oh yeah, there we go.
Yes, precisely. It's making a lot of like poignant commentary while also giving you superhero action. It's delivering on what it's promising, and that's why I think X Factor is a great book.
I as a new X-Men reader, X Factor is probably my least favorite. Not because it's a bad book, just because the characters I don't connect to as much. But I do believe that the story itself is better than X-Men, like the main title.
Okay.
I just think the characters in the X-Men books are some that I relate to more and connect with, so that's why I put it over that. But I love Granny. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of my issue, is that I should like, because I know the X-Men characters in X-Men better than I know the X Factor characters.
Yeah.
But like what I'm wanting, like you have Magneto on the team, you have Beast on the team, you have Cyclops on the team, you have Magic on the team, you have Temper, and they're good. Like I enjoyed the conversation between like Temper and Magic. You also have Psylocke.
Yeah.
In X-Men number 6, right? The one that came out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're just not there yet, I feel.
Yeah. It's six issues, and I feel like more can be done. I'm just like going through it. I'm not having like reactions, just like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the ending of 6 kind of gave me like an okay. I see we're going to somewhere.
Yeah. I wish that like almost wish that had came early, but hopefully like the future issues will give me what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Honestly, my favorite X-Men book and NYX is
NYX is really good, but I also do like Uncanny X-Men.
Yeah.
I like Uncanny.
I think this X-Men number 6, I didn't get to read it, but this series is like the Power Squad, where it's like, yes, this is a good proponent for like people who love power ranking or whatever it's called. What's it called? You know? Where it's like, my dad can beat your dad up. And it's like,
I mean, he can. But...
Yeah. Is my dad can beat your dad?
No, mine can be your dad.
No, I don't
Tell
know
you
about
right
that.
now.
I don't know about that.
Oh wow.
All right.
It's getting heated.
Okay, let's make a ranking.
All right. Well, how much can your dad bench? What are his feats? You know, again, it's like that. It's like my superhero, your superhero. What are their feats? How could they do it? And it's like, whatever, dude. It's all about personality, and that's why I like Uncanny X-Men.
Character.
Yeah.
You know,
Uncanny is really good.
Right?
Exceptional, I'm still getting into, but I feel like Uncanny is and NYX are like up there for me.
I like Exceptional because I look, it's a slow build, but it's doing it in a very grounded and interesting way with Kitty Pryde and her kind of collecting these band of misfits. So it's actually my second favorite book after Uncanny.
Okay.
It's good. I'm waiting to see where it goes because like I said, new X-Men reader.
Mm-hmm.
So like the things that might excite normal X-Men readers for me are like I'm discovering everything as I go.
Mm,
Okay, I know the names. I know Kitty Pryde as a name, but
yeah.
actually reading her stories, I'm like, okay, let's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I watched X-Men the animated series and X-Men Evolution, and
Oh, I
this is
didn't
my
even do
like
that.
okay. But like this is my first real foray. Like I read like X-Men Legacy and like Legion stuff, but I was very like picky and choosy. So I'm not like the biggest like X-Men like fountain of knowledge. But what I'm being drawn towards is stories that really feel character based,
Yeah.
but are progressing in a natural way.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, let's go. I mean, we're gonna have to like double, triple time. Nightwing 119. I liked it. It's a good start for Nightwing. I mean, I mean, the state of Bloodhaven draws me in, but we'll see whether it keeps my interests.
I'm hopeful about this. I feel like I'm gonna like this run. I think this was a strong start. It could have been strong, but I also feel like the setup was interesting. I'm trying to make this short. um, like it was really cool how like the mob, like all the crime bosses got destroyed. That really creates an interesting, like high stakes moment for Nightwing. And then it I think it could have ended stronger. I kind of wish that it ended the way that Superman ended, where it's like, oh, and then this is coming. Whereas I kind of saw the ending coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Action Comics 1072.
That was good. I love Monel as a character. I'm also fascinated in how it's exploring like the Phantom Zone, and where that could possibly like lead to. I don't like his suit is like it's bandages, and that's throwing me off. That's not a big deal. But overall, I am liking where the story's going, mainly based off of the premise.
Is Monel the bandaged one who was on the cover of 1070?
Yes.
Ooh, spoiler alert. Is he Hush? Is he
he's
Hush?
he's 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 Daxamite Hush.
Yeah, okay. All right. Uh Dazzler number 2. I didn't get to read this one. I read the first one. It was cute. People who like Taylor Swift might like this series. But you know.
Cute, fun book. That's it. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it. She's a cool character.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's it.
Um
It's my
Ethan,
review.
did you read this one?
I did not.
Okay. All right. They have actual song lyrics, right? They at least
Yeah.
in the first one they wrote a song. In the
Yeah.
second one, do they have song lyrics?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
That's
fun.
cool.
And I like, okay, I'll say this, my review. I like how they're dealing with like they kind of point at her and it kind of felt like something, like topical right now where like she mentions like, oh, like I'm out and proud, like I'm a mutant. And then someone tells her like a talk show is like, oh, so you hate humans. And she has to be like, no, like you didn't listen to the lyrics. It's not like, oh, I'm a mutant and proud, so I hate you. It's like we can all live here.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that sounds
That's
cool.
Yeah. Spider Boy number 12. I think I was the only person to read it out of you two. Spider Boy 12, I thought was actually pretty interesting because now that the world has their memories of Spider Boy back, it's exploring some of that. Like people who have been saved by him in the past now remember him again. But then also Daredevil pops by because Daredevil used to train Spider Boy. And what's really interesting is they bring Bullseye into this, and Bullseye has been training a protege as well, and her name is Spider Girl.
Hmm.
So
oh, inventive.
yeah, right? Sure, are they introducing too many spider people? Sure. But at the same time, I thought it was a cool diverting expectations, you know?
Hmm.
So I don't know, it was cool. I like Spider Boy. I do. I feel bad for him. I just feel sorry for him, you know?
Hmm. So it's a pity buy or no?
Uh, but it's part of the character that he's a kid. And I
Mhm.
think that that's kind of like a cute thing. He also doesn't have webs, which is just a funny thing. Like with his character, like his character doesn't have webs, so he
So he
has to
can't
like
do everything a spider can.
no, no. But his spider his spider sense works in reverse, where he touches something, and he can, I think, tell if the person who touched it is in danger. something like that. He can
So he
tell if
can't.
other people are in danger.
He cannot do half of the theme song. Cool.
Right. Void Rivals 13. I didn't get to read this one.
Uh, my favorite book in the Energon universe. Enjoying it a lot. Transformers good. G.I. Joe I kind of fell off,
Yeah.
but Void Rivals feels both like fresh as its own little like pocket of the universe and its own story, while also bringing in like little bits of like Transformers.
Okay. All right. Universal Monsters Frankenstein number 3. I read the first 2 and I liked them.
I like the art. I like the writing. Really cool. And this one gets more into like parts that were used for Frankenstein's monster
Uh-huh.
and how they actually affect him once he's alive.
Interesting. Okay.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
And then last but not least, I didn't read this one. The Moon is Following Us number 2.
It's Daniel Warren Johnson. It's great. I don't know what to say.
What's the premise?
Of the whole series.
I mean, it's only 2 issues in.
I'm gonna have to spoil like issue number 1, the ending of issue number 1.
Okay.
They're in this like dream world. There's like monsters. And it's like 2 parents like trying to like save their kid, and then at the end you find out that their kid's in a coma, and it's like they're in her mind. Like they're going into her brain to like wake her up.
Okay.
It's like they have to fight all like the monsters in her dreams.
Okay.
So it's a cool concept.
And like Daniel Warren Johnson doesn't write a
I'm gonna
series for
cry
too
probably.
long. Yeah.
I'm probably
it's
gonna cry by the
at
end of
some
it.
point. It's gonna be a
Yeah.
6 issue or 10 issue or 12 issue or whatever,
As soon as like I heard what it was about and who wrote it, I'm like, oh, this guy's gonna write another sad book. It's always like, oh my god, cool action, and then you get to the last issue and you're like, oh wow, no, it's
Yeah. His Beta Ray Bill miniseries made me sad. I was just like, oh.
yeah, no, that's
poor thing.
Do a Power Bomb. It's
I didn't read that
extremely sad.
one.
One of the saddest books I've ever read. That man just wants to make you cry.
I don't want to then. So I'm not gonna read that one then. A book that made me sad recently was Animal Pound number 5, but I think did I talk about it with you guys? But
Yes.
Not with me, but
I was here with it.
yeah. So it's worth getting into, but it is sad. So it is what it is. There were a lot of books that I didn't get to read this week that I really wanted to read, but like Detective Comics and whatnot. But I'm glad that we got through everything that we did read. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming on the show and talking to everybody about what you did read. Before we get going, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug? Ethan?
I am Virgo Blade. You can find me on TikTok, the Twitter, and Insta. Nothing coming up as of yet, but I will keep you posted.
Awesome. What about you, Christian?
Comic Book Stash on Instagram. You can find me in probably the description or wherever this is posted. Podcast took a little break, but we're coming back. If not tomorrow, then Saturday, and that would be October 26th. It's exciting. I'm working on a project, the video essay about the show Wilfred.
Okay.
Love that show, and I'm in talks to interview the Wilfred himself, Jason Gunn. So that's exciting.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
That's about it.
Very nice. Anyone out there who wants to follow me personally, you can follow me at This Is Dimithri. That's Dimithri. On Instagram's probably the biggest one, but I got a lot of old people following me on Facebook, on my Facebook fan page, because of my time on the game show. And so I got a lot of like old people fans, which is cool. They're great, very supportive. A lot of grandmas following.
We love old people.
There's a lot to love with old people. They got years of experience. Not on Facebook though, but if you guys are interested in anything that the Keeg has to offer, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Keeg Show. That's our 2 biggest social media platforms. But we're also on like Twitter and X and Threads and Facebook at The Keeg Show or / The Keeg Show. Pretty much wherever you get social media. So, definitely follow The Keeg there. The Keeg is, Comic Talk is one of the shows that The Keeg has. Comic Talk's every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. So wherever you were watching us, thank you guys so much for watching us. Like, follow, subscribe, comment, rate or review, whatever. We also got our podcast, which is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Audible, Amazon Music, so on and so forth. Anywhere you get your podcast from, you can find this podcast and some of the other shows that we do under The Keeg. Patreon.com/The Keeg Show if you want to give back to The Keeg. Also, if you want to find your local comic shops, go to comicshoplocator.com, find a comic shop near you, support your local comic shops, and also support your local public libraries. If you want to find comics, that is a great place to check out comic books for free. You just get your library card and you literally check out comic books and you just read them. And that's what I used to do when I was younger, and I just read all the comics that the library had. So if you guys don't want to spend money on comics, you can still get into comic books. There are options. Hit any of us up and ask us for recommendations if you want to. That's pretty much it. Yes, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Thank you everybody out there for watching. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been another episode of Comic Talk for the week of October 24th, 2024. Say bye, everybody.
Peace out.
Bye, everybody.